Hey, Beastista here, and welcome to week 7 of the VDL. I'm sorry for inconsistent video schedules for the VDL, but whenever my opponent posts a match, I decided to not post it myself. So, looking into this week, we see that I am playing on the right the Cardiff Komalas. So, when looking at my opponent's team, the first thing that should catch everyone's eyes, or at least my eyes, is Cinderace Whimsicott and Cinderace Tangrowth. So, Cinderace specifically has Fire, Flying, and Steel coverage. A combination of those three moves hit every single Pokemon on my team for super effective damage. In addition to that, those three types also have a difficulty in the fact that they don't have any shared weaknesses. So this makes Cinderace really hard to kill if it's faster than you. And with Whimsicott, we see that Whimsicott has Tailwind and Prankster, which makes Cinderace outspeed everything on my team. In addition, Tangrowth has Rage Batter, which allows redirection and makes it hard for Cinderace to be hit by anything on my team. And so, when thinking on my team, that is the big lead that I'm expecting and that I wanted to counter for the most part. Looking at the rest of their team, there's nothing that I 100% believe will come. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like Inteleon up here, because it's fast and has good special attack, including some flying coverage. I wouldn't be surprised to see Armaldo and Sudowoodo, because they both have good damage into my team, because they have the rock stab damage, and in addition, just have good physical attack. However, one of the things to note is that they don't have the best Trick Room setters, because and Whimsicott are the only two Pokemon on their team that have the move Trick Room, and they both are pretty frail. And so these will be hard to get in with Trick Room, and so because of their speed, my opponent might not choose not to get them. Other than that, the other thing noteworthy is Lopunny, because it has Fake Out. But like I said, the only thing that I'm 100% expecting is Whimsicott, Cinderace, and Tangrowth, or Cinderace. One of those combinations. So, looking at my team, my thought is, what's the best way to kind of deal with that? And the sad thing is I don't have any Pokemon with Fake Out, and I don't have any Pokemon with Prankster. So I actually don't have a traditional way to deal with Tailwind early. And I don't have the bulkiest team, so I don't have a great way to stall out the Tailwind by just surviving over a long period of time. And so I kind of had to come up with an interesting strategy, which is, if you look at my Pokemon Durant and Golisopod, they both learned the move First Impression. So one thing that's nice about the move First Impression is that it has +2 priority, which means that it will, and Whimsicott giving Prankster makes Tailwind only +1 priority. So regardless of their speeds, Golisopod and Durant, if I do First Impression, it will go before anything that Whimsicott does other than Protect. And so I can lead these two in First Impression on both and kill Whimsicott, or I can kill Tangrowth before they have the ability to do any move themselves. And so that is kind of the big thing that I thought that maybe is a way to deal with Whimsicott. This completely gets destroyed if my opponent just protects turn 1 or, leads something else and then Whimsicott comes in turn 2. But that's about all I can hope for. Other than that, looking at my opponent's team, I don't have a great Pokemon that can one-shot Cinderace consistently other than pretty much Vikavolt and Crustle. And looking at my opponent's team, because of Pokemon like Armaldo and Sudowoodo, I decided Crustle is probably my best Dynamax threat. And so the big question is how do I get speed advantage with Crustle? So I debated a little bit with Trick Room, but I decided Trick Room was not going to be reasonable because Whimsicott can have Taunt, and also ignores my redirection with Volcarona. And so I decided that I think the best way to do it is Weak Armor Crustle, because if it gets hit with a move, it gets +2 speed, and at +2 speed, Crustle will outspeed the entirety of my opponent's teams. Other than that, my team doesn't have a lot of great things. Rubombi and Pheromosa are pretty good because they do outspeed my opponent's team. But other than that, nothing else super excited me. So this is my team. So first we see the Durant and Glisopod. As I mentioned before, they both have first impression, and this is going to be a common or a lead that I'm going to try to do to at least one game in order to kill a Whimsicott, hopefully kill a Whimsicott before it has the ability to do any actions. Other than that, Durant's just Life Orb. I gave it Swarm so that it doesn't miss first impression, and the rest of it's kind of just random coverage moves. I don't expect Durant to survive much, but if it does, it can do some damage. Glisopod, this gets Aqua Jet, which is going to be useful on my Crustle later, but also, other than that, I gave it the Koba Berry specifically to survive Max Airstream by both Inteleon and a Cinderace. Other than that, both of these are pretty standard. Going to our next one, Crustle. Crustle, we gave Weakness Policy, Weak Armor, and enough speed to guarantee it outspeeds my opponent's team. So one thing that's noteworthy is that I gave it Stomping Tantrum, which is ground coverage, and yet my opponent has very few ground weaknesses. This is actually specifically there for Cinderace transforming into a Steel type with its ability Libero. And so it's really funny that I actually have coverage specifically for one of the Pokemon's changing typing, but that's what I have. Other than that, the idea is for the most part with this is going to be to Aqua Jet my own Crustle in order to get +2 speed and then hopefully kill somebody. So one of the things that's noteworthy is that any of my opponent's fast Pokemon, so Cinderace and Inteleon at +1 speed, they will outspeed my Crustle, even if I do have the weak armor activated. But that's why going down to my next two Pokemon, Pheromosa here is very important because it has Electro Web and Icy Wind, which allows my opponent to not get +1 speed with max Airstreams and the like. In addition, Volcarona with Rage Powder can allow me to redirect if Crustle is not outspeeding. Other than that, I gave Will-O-Wisp to burn Cinderace after it gets rid of its fire typing. And then other than this, I gave Focus Blast as a means to hit some of the rock Pokemon on my opponent's team that could be scary. But, and then finally, we have Escavalier. So Escavalier, I don't expect to bring for the most part. It is mainly there for two reasons. One, to counter if my opponent for some reason goes Hard Trick Room. If they go Hard Trick Room, I don't really have a great answer to it. And so I have one here. And in addition, this is also a way to make my opponent not want to lead Trick Room if they were leading, or if they liked that as an option, because it does very well into most of my opponent's Trick Room options. Well, that's my team, and let's get into the matches. So here's our first match. So looking at my opponent's team, the first thing I noticed is Azelf, because I wasn't really expecting Azelf because it seemed very weak into my team, because almost everything on my team can kill in one attack. Other than that, I didn't really know what Bolton did, and so I was thinking okay, I was checking actually right now to see what these things did. So the big thing was my main lead in my head game one was going to be Glisopod, Durant, and then Crustle and Pheromosa in the back. And so I was definitely just, going through some of the new Pokemon that I wasn't expecting to see, and whether or not I think, okay, are they going to leave the Whimsicott Cinderace like I'm expecting? And so while doing research, we see here that I end up actually timing out. And so this is really awkward, but on the bright side, my top four Pokemon do actually have some valid reason to have brought them in the general sense. And so what we see here, my opponent brings Cinderace and Tangrowth. And I brought Volcarona, Pheromosa, because those were my top two Pokemon in my team. On the bright side, this lead I think is actually pretty reasonable, despite the fact that it was random. So right now I debate whether or not so I'm just checking the back to see what Pokemon I actually brought. That's what I did here, because I'm like, I don't remember exactly what Pokemon I brought. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm debating between Rage Powder and Protecting, because, I can imagine either of them being worthwhile. Yeah, so I decided to protect, and then I just go with Icy Wind, because Icy Wind does more damage to Tangrowth, and I don't think Electro is going to do a huge amount to Cinderace. So the Icy Wind hopefully is going to lower the speed of Cinderace and allow Crustle to sweep me in. So Cinderace Dynamaxes, unexpectedly. And then I protect the Volcarona. And they Rage Powder, which is good, because I'd rather Tangrowth Rage Powder than do anything else. So get the speed down on Cinderace, which is really relevant. And I got the crit on Tangrowth, which is also pretty convenient for me. And they max Airstream, which is about what I expected. And I'm hoping it goes into Volcarona because I protected here. And it does go into Volcarona. And so that went very good. I'd be about as optimal as I could hope for a turn one. Because now, now Cinderace is now a +1 speed. And in addition to that, my Pheromosa's Focus Sash is intact. So here, there's no reason why I would expect Cinderace to do a fire attack. And so I'm thinking like I should just Will-O-Wisp it, and that would be really useful. And the burn on Cinderace would be really helpful in making Crustle really hard to kill. And I don't think they're going to Rage Powder because they saw I didn't target Cinderace. So I did Will-O-Wisp, and then I just decided to do Icy Wind again because Electro-Up's not going to do almost any damage to Tangrowth. And Icy Wind misses the Cinderace, which is really annoying. I would have 100% rather it miss the Tangrowth there because I want to make sure Cinderace doesn't have +1 speed. That's one of the important things here. So they do max Airstream and into Pheromosa this time, which is annoying, but not terrible, because this lets my Will-O-Wisp go into Cinderace, which is helpful. And then I missed the Will-O-Wisp, definitely pretty annoying here. And then Tangrowth Rock Slide ends up killing the Pheromosa here. So far, that turn didn't go as bad as it could have gone, but it definitely didn't go as well as it could have gone. If I would have hit the Will-O-Wisp, I felt really good. But right now, I'm feeling only okay. So I decided to bring in the Crustle here. And I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure Struggle Bug will kill Tangrowth. So I'm debating if I want to Rage Powder, Struggle Bug, Will-O-Wisp again, or Protect. And I decided I can just kill Tangrowth, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do to the Cinderace? I can Protect, or I can Dynamax. If I Protect, I likely am going to get my Weakness Policy activated, which is pretty useful. And so that's what I decided to do, because, in hope that Cinderace hits me so I can activate my Weakness Policy and also get my speed boost. So they max Steel Spike, which I'm not surprised they have, and it's into my Crustle. Crustle takes it pretty well. I could imagine it doing upwards of 50%, so I'd say that it ended up going well. So Crustle gets the Weakness Policy activate, which gives me +2 speed, and then my Weakness Policy activates, I get +2. Attack, and so Crustle is now very offensive. And then Struggle Bug here, which we see the Tangrowth does have the Bug Resist Berry, which I was expecting on something, but it ends up not doing enough to prevent Tangrowth from dying there. So right now, I'm feeling pretty good. Crustle has Volcarona next to it, which gives me some redirection support, and in addition has +2 speed and +2 attack, and so I'm feeling like I'm in a favorable position right now. Okay, and then they bring in Azelf, which honestly, I'm like, I don't know what this is going to be here for. Maybe they're going to Trick Room, maybe it's just max offense. So I decided to just Rage Powder and max. And I'm debating between, Rock Ball, Bug, or Quake. I decided to Rock Ball because if I Quake, Azov could have ally switch, and Cinderace could bounce or something. And yeah. So I Dynamax Crustle. And I Rage Powder. And Cinderace outspeeds me, which is unsurprising at +1. But that does a lot more damage than I would have liked. But I get an additional speed boost, so now I outspeed Cinderace, and I even outspeed anything on their team with a Choice Scarf, because I got hit another time and get an additional +2 speed. And so we one-shot Azelf, which is nice, but oh yes, one thing that's noteworthy I didn't mention, Cinderace did not attack my Volcarona, which means that it's guaranteed that it has safety goggles. So we know the item on Cinderace. So now I'm debating between whether or not I should be attacking Cinderace or Inteleon. It's not super clear. In the back I have Golisopod, so I feel pretty good about that. And right here I'm like, okay, I have a pretty clean kill on Cinderace and Inteleon. So at this point I was actually just thought about. I was just thinking about Snipe Shot. It actually prevents redirection, and I literally accidentally hit A instead of B. And so this Rage Powder ends up being completely useless if they just Snipe Shot, which is the most likely thing that Cinderace will do. So we Max Quake, and this kills the Cinderace. And now I feel I'm in a very good position, though, despite that complete misplay the turn. Because I'm going to have 2 Pokemon at the end of this turn. They're going to only have 1, and their Pokemon is pretty frail, and is likely doesn't have a way to, or almost guaranteed has no way to one-shot my Golisopod. They crit, which doesn't matter in the slightest. That could mean that they maybe are Scope Lens, but Snipe Shot also has slightly increased crit chance, so it doesn't matter, and it doesn't really tell us much. So we bring out Golisopod here, and I'm feeling pretty good. I'm like, okay, yeah, we can just Struggle Bug first impression, and that's pretty good chance to kill. And if it doesn't kill, then definitely Sucker Punch can kill next turn. So they protect, which is smart. It sees some of my moves and also baits the specifically first impression, prevents that. So looking at this, we're like, okay, yeah, Struggle Bug and just Leech Life. Leech Life's giving me some help. This seems like a pretty easy turn. If they target Volcarona, then Golisopod almost certainly can 2-shot. So they Air Slash into Golisopod. They identify that I do in fact have the Kova Berry, which is useful for them in game 2, but it also means that I take this easily. And then this double up is a easy kill. I got a crit, which is definitely a little bit lucky, but I don't think it really mattered too much. There's regardless of the kit, this Leech Life might have killed, and if that Leech Life doesn't kill, they would have been in Sucker Punch range with my Golisopod. And we won the first match. Now here is round 2. So first round went well, even though I had a really bad misplay of randomly selecting my first lead. And so this time I'm like, okay, let's do the lead that I was originally planning on bringing, which is Golisopod, Durant, and then Crustle and Pheromosa. I was thinking a little bit, but I'm like, yeah, this seems like a good lead. They're not going to expect it. It didn't happen in game 1, and that game didn't go particularly well for them. So I'm like, I think that there's definitely some chance that they're going to do this, or like it's going to work well. Okay, and so we see that they bring Whimsicott and Inteleon as their lead. I'm expecting, and I have Durant, Golisopod. So this looks good. I'm glad they brought Whimsicott. This allows me to do the double first impression to kill Whimsicott like I was expecting. I don't see any reason why anyone would expect this on turn 1. And in addition to this, I don't think that they likely are going to have Protect on Whimsicott because I don't have Fake Out, I don't have taunt, so like there's not a lot of reason for Whimsicott to even have protect. Like I'm expecting Inteleon to probably Dynamax here, which and kill one of my Pokemon, which would be okay, but not which would be fine. So they end up protecting Inteleon, which is great. This means that turn 1 went completely optimal because I killed Whimsicott before it does anything, and in addition to that, I don't take any damage on my team either. And so that's a guaranteed one-shot regardless of the item, regardless of any EV investment they can do. Okay, and so they bring in Azelf, which I'm not exactly sure what this Azelf's going to be doing here. So I'm like, I think it's a pretty easy. We'll just double up into Azelf because I don't want to deal with that, and it can be pretty scary. So they end up Dynamaxing Inteleon, which is not super surprising. And their Azelf has Flamethrower. What we see here is because it outspeeds Inteleon, it's very likely that it's Choice Scarf. But it's not guaranteed because their Inteleon could be slow. So they max airstream into my Golisopod, which gives it a speed boost, which is definitely concerning. And it's a little bit sad also that I take a little bit over 50%. If I took a little bit under 50%, Golisopod would not be forced to switch out here, and I'd be able to probably kill the Azelf, if not do very close to killing it. And so I decided to just bring in Pheromosa because Crustle doesn't do well into this this current board state because their Inteleon's +1 speed. And I bring Golisopod back out, which allows me to first impression to the Azelf, and so Azelf is immediately pressured. So I'm going to first impression to that, and then just do the Electro Web, which does the most damage into the Inteleon. And if Inteleon for some reason doesn't max Airstream, it gets back to neutral. They switch out to Azelf, which is not super surprising, because I don't know if it would survive a first impression. And it does pretty good damage to Cinderace in all honesty. So Inteleon max Geysers, which honestly is optimal. So that means that they did not get the +1 speed. So they're at if I hit with Electro, that means they're at neutral speed at the end of this turn. And Cinderace is at less than 50%. And so Aqua Jet should kill Cinderace here. I'm doing a damage calc right here to confirm this is the case, but in the rain, Aqua Jet does kill Cinderace. And so I decided to just Aqua Jet into Cinderace and then just do an Electro Web again. This is the best way to make sure that Inteleon doesn't get the speed boost. So they protect Cinderace. Now we know the entire moveset of Cinderace, which is they have Fire, Flying, Steel, and Protect. And this Electro Up getting down below 58%, which is really useful and noteworthy because now Inteleon's at -1 speed, and after its max airstream it will be at neutral. And what's very noteworthy here is that also that Inteleon is at less than 50%, which means that non-Dynamax and Electro Web probably kills it. And so now I'm feeling pretty good. Crustle coming in should be able to sweep the board if I get hit by anything, and if I don't get anything, obviously Crustle's in great shape. So here I'm just like, okay, Electro Web. As long as the Electro Web hits Inteleon, I feel pretty good. So if Inteleon does Protect, I can imagine maybe losing it at this position. But if Inteleon does not have Protect, I'm feeling I should be able to win. And so I decided to double up or to hit the Inteleon with the Rock Slide just in case they do protect, because it should kill through a protect if Cinderace hits me. And I really want the Inteleon to die. So Electro Web luckily hits with both, and this does get the kill on Inteleon. And so they Iron Head into Crustle, which honestly probably helps me more than hurts me. It does quite a bit of damage, but now Crustle is +2 speed and has an attack boost. However, there's also a question that maybe Max Rockfall was not optimal here. What we're going to see is after Rock's Rockfall, I get the Sand Up, and that's going to kill Theramosa. However, it also gives me a special defense boost because Crustle's rock typing. So it might be optimal actually, nonetheless, but it's a little bit sad that Theramosa dies. So now it's just Azelf versus Crustle. I'm Dynamaxed in the sand, so I don't think there's much they can hope to do here. We know that their choice card from earlier, and so Max Butterfly is definitely the safest one. I debated between Max Rockfall because I know Max Rockfall killed earlier, but I'm like, that's dumb. Do this one in case it was like a roll or something. And we get the kill, and we get the win. So I'm really happy. This is only our second win of our league. We've been not doing well, but we got there, and I think this one ended up being a good match. Thanks for watching.